Welcome back to Catholic Conversations. As always, I'm your host, Joelle Zarnowski, and this week we are joined by my colleague, Kevin Reimer, who is here to talk today about his newest book. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about your newest book, Secondhand Saints, which I have a copy of here, and I got a chance to read it. And so in this book, we have some stories that were shared with you, and then some illustrations by a local artist, which are phenomenal. So first, can you just tell us a little bit about the book without giving too much away? Because we certainly want people to actually pick up a copy and read it. But could you just give a little synopsis of what they can expect in the book?
So it's actually written for folks in the pew. It's designed to be really accessible. And I think what's fun about that is you can write with people you know in mind. So there are folks that I know from church that were kind of in the back of my head as I was thinking about these stories and how they could potentially make an impact for them. My previous writing has been focused mostly on academia. Yeah. So I think for this work, it was really fun. It was kind of a completely different approach and, of course, different people in mind.
Yeah. So I found a lot of these stories to be very inspirational. A lot of them were very relatable, not only from a place of faith, but just life in general.
Sure.
And so can you talk a little bit about what, inspired this and, this took you a long time to pull all together. So kind of what that process looked like for you a little bit.
Sure. 25 years ago, I was really fortunate to win a grant to interview folks that cared for the developmentally disabled in a community called L'Arche, which is French for the Ark. And I got to interview 80 of these people. The project was all about compassion and love, and it was unbelievable. It was actually life-changing for me. When you interview people, you hear things that are completely unexpected. It's like there's an Easter egg in every conversation. And I think that experience really inspired me. It began to get me thinking about other kinds of issues that I might want to address in terms of interview work. So I think with this particular project, obviously the focus was spirituality, but I think we started with the assumption that the people that are going to have the most to say, the most impactful things to say about spirituality are folks that everyone recognizes as being exemplary. And so these are folks that we would call faith exemplars. And it took a lot of collaboration, a lot of partnership to find these people. They're not easy to find. So we had to work with clergy. We had to work with religious universities and other organizations that knew these people in order to find them and then actually connect with them and make the interviews happen.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of people can understand maybe that writing a book in general, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but especially when you need that input from other people, that turns into a really, really big project.
Yes.
And you also want to make sure that you're telling their stories and giving their stories justice. So I'm sure that there's that weight on your shoulders of man, I want to make sure that these stories that they shared with us that are very deeply vulnerable and very powerful, that I'm telling them appropriately. And that certainly shows in the book. So obviously there's the spirituality component, but aside from that, did you notice any similarities between these individuals and their stories that made their faith so relatable for people?
These people are really interesting. They're everyday folks, with one exception. But I think you'll find over and over again when you're sitting with them, when you're speaking to them, that their interest is not about themselves. They're interested in others. And I think if you were to say to them, well, you are a faith exemplar, thanks for sitting with me, they'd look at you like you're nuts. They'd say, well, there's nothing exemplary here.
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm all about this or these people or this aspect of my relationship with God. And so their focus is on others. They're outwardly focused. And so I think the idea, even of exemplarity, they find in some cases hilarious. They'll laugh at you, or they'll say, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people would have that reaction when being given a compliment. Like, it's just really hard to accept like positive feedback from other people. And I think that some of the most extraordinary people don't see themselves that way at all. You know, it's like you don't look at yourself through the same lens that other people see you. So I know for me, when I was reading this, oddly enough, first story, there's a line, and I'm not going to quote it exactly because we want to leave something to the imagination for folks, but this person was sharing a story about, you know, things that they experienced in their lives. And the thing that really stuck with me from that story was the quote that they had from their grandmother, which was along the lines of, "You can be angry with God, he can take it."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness, how many people need to hear words like that and understand what that means? And that part really, really resonated with me. And I've thought a lot about it since I read it. And I'm like, man, his grandmother is so wise. Like, it's so true that, you know, when you are angry with God for something, talk to him, tell him that you're angry. He can take it and he's going to help you through that. So for you, were there any particular stories, without giving too much away, in the book that really kind of stuck with you or resonated with you?
It's difficult to single one out because each of them, for me, was very personally impactful. You need to understand that there were probably 90 people interviewed for this project.
Yeah.
So you're only getting the very best interviews, the interviews that are most impactful. But I think for me, there's one individual who's struggling with depression, and she has this remarkable way of describing. She's walking in sand in Scotland on a beach. And she talks about how each step in the sand, her foot sinks, and then it's like there's suction holding her down, and it becomes harder even to get her foot out of the sand to take the next step forward. And she says, isn't that depression in a nutshell?
Yeah.
And she's working this out in the context of faith, and in this case, a pilgrimage of penance. So I think that particular image, I think I'll take with me to the grave. Like it's profound. Like what she's articulating there says so much about what it means for us to suffer, and what it means too for God to be part of our journey of reconciliation and healing.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And the thing is, like, so many of us experience these same things, right? Like, so many people experience depression. So many people go through a crisis of faith, or where they're like, you know, why do these things happen? God is so great. Why do bad things happen? And they struggle with that. But like, to hear somebody else explain it in a way where you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And it makes perfect sense. And that can help you kind of like move forward, or even find a different way to work through really difficult times, or even just to experience joy in a different way, just to hear it explained in a different, you know, view from a different person.
My prayer is that will be the case for each person that picks up the book. Yeah,
absolutely. I can absolutely see that happening. So we talked about the artwork, which was done by a local artist, Ellen Ronner.
That's right.
Yep. Beautiful artwork to go along with each story. So can you talk a little bit about how you feel that artwork contributes to the impact of the stories in the book?
Well, this was part of the vision that I had for the book, and it goes back 12, 14 years. I've been thinking about this book for a long time.
Yeah.
And in part, it didn't get written because I felt like, for whatever reason, I felt compelled to find a partner, an artist, to help make the stories come alive. So I think for me, in part, it was waiting for that right person to come across my path, such that we could say, hey, here's what we have. Here are the stories. Do you see this? Literally, do you see it? And can you artistically frame it for us? Make it come alive in a way that only visual art can. There are things that words can do that visual art can't, but the same is true of visual art. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a moment of the Holy Spirit's goodness to the folks that are interviewed for the project that she came when she did.
Yeah.
Because she saw it. She could see them, and she could see the issues. She could see the pain.
Mm-hmm.
She could see the redemption.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that she was a part of it.
Oh yeah. No, it's very apparent that she has a vision. Like you
Right.
look at those at the images and you really tune into all of the detail that's in there. And she really
Right.
did such a great job of capturing the vision of these stories and absolutely bringing them to life, which I love to read, and I'll read chapter books. I'll look at books with illustrations, but it is always nice to have a little something more. So those
Yes.
illustrations do, like, you can just spend some time after you've finished
Right.
reading that story really looking at the artwork and being like, yeah, I can
Mhm.
I can see exactly what I just read in this image, and it helps you to feel something a little different too.
It's experiential, and I think it's a different way of touching the same issues.
Yeah.
And I think it in a way is also more inclusive in the sense that a range of different people and their experiences may be touched that otherwise might not have been
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
this story.
Absolutely. The other thing that I really loved about this book is that you don't have to sit down and necessarily like read the whole thing cover to cover in one sitting. You certainly can. Very
Right.
easy to do. But you could even just take it one story at a time. So maybe you just want to spend some time in the evening before you go to bed at night, or when you get home and you want to decompress, and just sit down and read one story, enjoy the illustrations, and then save the next story for the next day. So I really liked that it wasn't something that yes, I felt very compelled to sit and read it all at once. I was like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this one. I'm going to sit, I'm going to reflect on it. I'm going to really
glad to hear
take it
that.
in, and then I'll read another one the next day. And that I think that is a really great part about this book, that anybody can enjoy it. So you talked a little bit about this already, but if you could elaborate a little bit more, what do you hope readers of Secondhand Saints would take away for their own spiritual journey through the book?
Well, the redemption and the reconciliation and healing of the gospel is absolutely essential to the book and to the, the lives of the people that we interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I think there's a sense that for each of them, they are learning and growing around the cross and their understanding of the cross as a very personal aspect of their journey.
Yeah.
So my hope would be that as you see yourself in their stories, that too would also become part of yours.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's comforting for people to see that they're not alone.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge piece for anyone going through anything in life. So even if it's having a conversation with somebody and hearing them say to you like, oh, I understand.
Sure.
I've been through something similar. I can empathize with you. But then being able to read it in a book, you don't know these people. There's no names associated with it. You don't necessarily have a face to put to the story. So it could be anybody. It could be anybody walking down the street, that they could be that person. And so to know that there are so many people that relate to the things that we're struggling with, I think is huge. And it really does help you to move forward and to grow and to find comfort when you need it. So before we wrap up, are there any other things that you want to share about the book that I didn't touch on? Maybe where people can get a copy?
You can get a copy at Amazon. You can buy it from the publisher, which is Whip and Stock. But I think significantly, too, you might consider finding a quiet room and reading the story to yourself out loud. I think you might find that you hear the experience and the insights and the wisdom in a way that you wouldn't if you were just looking at it, as words on a page.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I suggest that is because I want you to hear the voices of the people that are there. Each of them has a voice, a very special voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we duplicate that, when we read something out loud, it really it infuses and kind of rehabilitates and brings to life those words and those stories.
Yeah. I think reading things aloud too helps you to just take it in a different way.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that like when I'm practicing to read at daily mass, if I just read it with my eyes,
right,
I'm not making sense of it. But when I read it out loud and I hear the words that I'm speaking, it takes on a totally different meaning.
Yes, exactly.
So I love that suggestion. That's a great suggestion. So, well, thank you again
Thank you very much for
joining
having
us
me.
today. Yeah, and I'll make sure we'll have a link to the book in our episode description. So I highly encourage our listeners to check it out. It's a great read. Like I said, you can read it a story at a time. You can read it all in one sitting. But we will definitely make sure we share that with our readers. So
thanks, Joel.
I appreciate you sharing this with us. And thanks to our listeners. We will see you next week.